Hi all, so this is lesson 3 of our Sololearn journey. Just want to reflect on a few things that came up last week. So a few people said that they would like me to do a bit more of an intro and show a few more of the issues that come up. So I'm going to do that today, so it might be a slightly longer video. The other thing that I'm noticing a lot of is that there are still a lot of people not reading all the text and just trying to plow through each of the questions. Now that's not really the mission. Now I'm not worried if you only manage to do 3 or 4 lessons, but I really want you to absorb the text, read the text and try the examples out. Without that process of read, try and then answer, I feel that you're not going to take the information in. What we've been finding a lot of is that students are just using as many hints as possible just to get through as much as possible, and it's not what I want. So the one thing I want to reiterate now is I'm not worried about how many lessons you do. If in the 1 hour slot that we have you only manage to get 4 lessons done, I'm not worried. That's absolutely fine. As long as you've read through it, as long as you've tried out the examples, that's absolutely fine. I have no problem with that at all. So just want to reiterate that it's not a race, okay? We're not trying to plow through as much as we can. Now, for those that have used up all of their hints, there is no easy way of saying this. I think there is a reset button on Sololearn. I think you're just going to have to press the reset button and start again. And once again, if you just end up handing me in what you've done this week in that hour slot, that's absolutely fine. I'm not worried if you're at the end of section 2 or at the end of section 1, but I just want you to take that information in. So I think that's a strong point to make is really read the questions, try out the examples in the playground. So I'm going to walk through a few of the things from this next block. And show you a few of the issues that I had and things that might come up. So hopefully this will prove useful. So let's do this. I'll head on over to the web browser. So here we are then. So my lot today is just these 4 lessons and this module, and I'm going to finish there. And we are starting to look at things that we haven't really looked at in class. So this will be the first time that you've looked at it, probably. There is one error with the quiz, so I will start with that. Now, the first thing I want to show you is how to reset this. So if you click on these buttons here, there is a reset here, which you can click on that and you can reset your account and start again. So if you need to do that, that's absolutely fine. Now, the other thing is I always make sure I have the playground open. So I've got the playground here so I can enter the code, and I've got my questions here so I can read through them. So I'm pretty much ready to copy and paste or enter the text in as I need to. So for those that are desperate to get on, I'm going to start with the quiz because there is one question that I feel just isn't right. So if we start with the quiz and then I'll come back to this one. So in the quiz, it's question 1, this one here, and the error is here. I'm not really sure why they've entered 2 lists. I think this is an error. I think it should just be list and then item 4. But the problem is item 4 is also wrong compared to what the answer is. So the actual answer here, and you might want to just write this down, is actually 8. 8 will get you the correct answer, and then you can just move on. And I would just say, look, this is not great. If you want to run this in the code, that's absolutely fine, but it is not great. So 8 is the answer, and that gets you through it. Now there are 2 other questions. Question 4 is a little bit tricky. Now for question 4, you'll probably need to go back to the len answer and just review it. Okay, so if you come here and there is this list functions here. Inside of here there is one called len, and if you just review that will give you the answer for question 4, and it will help you do that. And then the other one that I feel that you guys might struggle with is question 6. This one here is going to use the variable name as the answer, and although they don't actually show you this in the loops question, once again you can review the answer here inside of the loops for what the answer is, but they actually don't show you how to use the variable here. So it's this one here. The answer for this bit here is just var. Okay, the rest I'll let you do, but that's how you kind of achieve the answer, and that might not be so obvious to some of you. Okay, so that's the quiz. So if you're happy with that, you guys can read through and try it out. In this next bit, I'm just going to show you how I approach these things. So I've got a couple of things rigged up here that I can show you how to do. So the first one is the list functions. So if I click on the list functions and go to question 3, so question 3 is this one here. Now, to get the answer for this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste the code into the playground. And this is what some of you haven't been doing. And if you try out the code, more often than not, it will give you the answer. So if we try out the code here, and it says, what is the result of this code? So we'll come over to the playground, we'll paste it in here, and we'll press run. And lo and behold, we get the answer. So that's part of it. I mean, if you want to try other things out, so if you want to see, okay, what happens if I change the position of the insert and the number value, or what happens if I try and print something out. So you can actually try out a few of these examples as well and try out a few different options. But if you're just looking for an answer, you can copy and paste it in. You can see what the code looks like actually in the playground. So that was tip number 1. For my next one, we're going over to the loops page. So if we go into the loops one, I don't think you'll have any trouble with the range. We have looked at that, and I think you'll be absolutely fine with that. But the loops one always causes a few issues. So once again, we're going to go over to question 3, and we're just going to explain what's going on. So it says here, fill in the blanks to create a for loop that prints only the even values. So the first thing you need to realize is it's a for loop. So we can just print in the for loop, and then we have 3 arguments inside of this range. So if you were just doing a really simple range, you would have 1 argument, and that would just give you the number of times to run the loop. So this first, that's what it would do. But in this instance, it's actually the lowest number. So how the range works, you have to give the lowest number let's rephrase it, because you can have negatives. So let's rephrase it. You have to give the first number, the number where it starts, to the number that it ends, okay? So in this case, it's the lowest number to the highest number. And then you have to do the iteration value. So the iteration value for this one, because we want even numbers, we have to work out how do we get even numbers. So in order to get even numbers, we just iterate over 2. Okay, so that will give us 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. I don't think it will print 20, but once again, you can check that in the actual code. And then finally, all you do is print the variable here. So you just run the variable of I, and that will give you the actual result. So hopefully that kind of solves a few things. But if you wanted to check this, you could just copy and paste this into the playground, and you could just run it and see what happens. So it does do a bit of weirdness here. So let's just correct some of this and put my answers in. And then you do have to make sure the indent is right. So what I do in order to get the indent right, and I'll show that again because I was a bit quick there. But in order to get the indent right, all I'll do is I'd bring it back to the colon and then press enter, and that gives me the correct indent. So now when I press run, we should get all of those even values. And there we go. And once again, it doesn't print the last number. And it doesn't print 19, obviously, because 19 isn't an even number. So if you wanted to try this out, you could iterate over 1, and you could run it again, and you'd see every single number printed out from 0 all the way to 19. So if you wanted to include 20 there, all you would do is run the loop to 21. Okay, and another thing you can do is you don't need to start at 0, you can start at 5. So it will run from 5, rather than running from 0, it will run from 5. So we can press the run value, and you'll see that it starts at 5, ends at 20. Okay, so hopefully that was useful. And this is how I process things. I just try different things out and see what would happen if I run different values. And I do believe you could start with 50, and then you could run minus numbers as well. Let's try this. If it doesn't work, forgive me, but I think this should work. There you go, and it runs all the way down. So it starts, so this is what I was saying before. This is many people think of that as the first number, or the lowest number to the highest number. But in actual fact, when you're running negative numbers, it does run in reverse. So yeah, it really is the first number to the last number. Okay, right, so is there anything else I need to do here? So the next thing we need to look at, and the last thing, is the simple calculator. Now, for the simple calculator, what it asks you to do is to actually create the code in the playground. Now, the problem with the playground is it actually doesn't run inputs. So all you can do with this is actually write the code and look at it. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab this code for this first section, and please read the text obviously and find out what you're meant to be doing. But because I've done this already, I'm just going to show you the process. So we're just going to grab this code, Control C to copy, go over to the playground and paste it in. So there's the first bit that we need to do. At the moment it won't do much more than just print these values, and it will chuck up an error that says, hey, you've got inputs. And if you try and write an input like add, it's meant to show you the answer, but I can't get this working. It's not working for me, which is a bit of a shame. It doesn't show me what I've just done. It shows me an error. So if that doesn't work for you, that's absolutely fine. So the next thing is we're going to add to this code. So I'm going to leave the playground open, and we're going to add to it in the next one. So if you come back to the top, and once you press the next button, of course, it will take you to the question, and then in the next one it says, hey, now let's add a bit more to this code. So it's only going to give you this in iterative stages. So the next bit is we need to add this, Control C, to our code, and it says add it to the add section. So in the add section, which is this one here, and I'm just going to copy over this. Now the one thing it does do is it throws all the indents in the wrong places. So once again, if you hit the backspace a few times, 3 times, until you get back to the colon, and then press enter, it will give you the correct indent. And then do it again here. So that's the next bit, and what it's saying to you is, okay, this is the first line, where else do you think you need to add this? Now obviously for the quit button you don't need to add it, but you will need it for the add, you will need it for the subtract, you will need it for the multiply, you will need it for the divide. Okay, and that's it. So you'll probably need to, no, you don't need to change any values, but all you would do is you'd copy and paste it, and get rid of these 3 dots as well, otherwise that will also break your code. So let's just make sure we're on the right indent, press paste, and that looks okay, but I am going to check it because for some reason Sololearn does put it in the wrong place sometimes. No, that's okay. And then we can move on to the next bit. Now in the next one, so let's just move on to this one here. You do have to answer the questions in order to get here, of course. It's just going to tell you, okay, now we're going to add the results. So if a user presses add and then he enters 2 and 4, then the next bit is how to show you the results. So we've set up a variable called result. We've changed both values to strings, and we said, right, 2 goes here, 4 goes here, or whatever, and then it will calculate that result, and it will tell you what the answer is. So for this one, all we need to do is copy this, and then we're going to paste it into the code. Now, if you wanted to tell, and what you would do then is you just add that same bit of code to these areas here, just like we did before, and that will give you the simple calculator. If you've got Python on your system, you could actually run this and see what it does, and it does work a lot better than the Sololearn playground, but a lot of you, this is all you've got, and that's absolutely fine. If you wanted to run this, you could actually run it without the inputs. So let me just show you how to do that, to run this without the input. So for instance, rather than, you can actually just put the value in. So say for instance, the value was going to be, whoops, it's just going to be add, okay? So that's what it's asking. To get to this point here, it wants the value add here. So rather than putting an input in, we're just going to say add. Now the first number, it wants something like, I don't know, 2.0. The next number, it wants something like, I don't know, 3. And then the results, you could just put, now because of the way we've done it, I don't think we need the string value, and we don't need the bracket. And then that should give us, so if I just get rid of this, you should, now that we don't have to put inputs in, we should be able to get the result for this. So let's just try it, and hopefully it works. No, it chucked up an error. So if use input equals multiply, it's because I don't even know why it ran that actually. Is it Expected an indent. Okay, let's just get rid of these for now then, and that should work. And once again, right, if you didn't want to, if I just Control Z that, if you didn't want to get rid of them, you can actually add the same information here to see it work. But just so I can test it, let's just get rid of all of these, and then hopefully it works, and then you guys can move on. And we're still getting an error. Oh, that's interesting. So we do need the string there. Okay. Put that back. Scroll all the way to the bottom. Timed out. Oh my goodness. Yeah, it is giving it there for some reason. Oh, it's an infinite loop. Oh, I see. I've actually put it into an infinite loop. Of course I have, because it's doing this and it's just going round and 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 round. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm just going to break it. So just so that we don't get that infinite loop parameter, because obviously at the moment, because there's no inputs, I can't write the word quit there, which is causing me a few issues. And those indents don't look right either. Maybe it's that one. Anyway, right, this time. There we go, and the answer is 5. So hopefully that was useful. If you have any feedback and you want more information, or if you're having problems, please let me know. What my intentions are now is next week we're just going to do the last section, and we'll probably call it a day with Sololearn. Obviously, if you want to go further on and do lots more, that's absolutely fine. But I think for a lot of you guys, it's probably just a step too far. I've got a couple of other ideas that I want to have a look at, but I think after the next section, we'll probably call it a day with Sololearn. But once again, if you've got any feedback, if you need any help, let me know, and I'll either try and feed it back in these videos, or I will write you a little comment. Okay, sorry that was a bit long, but hopefully that was useful and it helped, and I'll see you next week.